It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and it's time to review another Renegade Brewery beer. Now, Renegade Brewery used to be West Berkshire Brewery. Unfortunately, because of the world, what's happened over the last it's starting to feel like forever, isn't it? It's starting to feel like one crisis after another. It all started, well, I think it all started, I get confused now, with 2019, that whole thing of 2019. But I think we're already in some kind of like leaving the Euro thing already, weren't we? It's all foggy now, it's getting foggy. But anyway, we had, I'll try get it in the best order. We had 2019, then we had leaving the European Union, and then we had cost of living. And those three things have really kind of limited business in not just the UK, but around the world. But we've been hit hard as here in the UK, because if you're a brewery, if you're in my sector, kind of like talking about beer and being involved in brewing and breweries and stuff, it's like a triple whammy, an absolute triple whammy. It's possibly the worst time to be involved in beer in the last probably 40 years. Because not only has your supply chains more or less kind of ceased in Europe, but then we had the situation where all the pubs closed. And then we had nobody's got any money. So it's been an absolute nightmare. So, of course, in these situations, some breweries, a lot of breweries, they just can't make it from like not being able to sell your beer in Europe to situation where all your pubs close to then situation where nobody's got any money. It's been an absolute nightmare. So I feel for all of the breweries that have had problems over the last few years and they've not been able to continue. There's been a lot of headlines out there, a lot of kind of big name breweries that haven't been able to make it. But on the kind of the shining light in all of this is companies like West Berkshire Brewery. They've now kind of like got taken over. The brewery's been taken over. Some of the beers are still being made. And hopefully some of the old employees have been taken back on and kind of like, it almost seems like we're all kind of just like muddling along until there's a big spike in the economy again where everybody gets to live a bit. So one of those beers that have carried on after West Berkshire Brewery is Mr. Chubb's Session Bitter, 3.4% ABV, 500 milliliter bottle, a black bottle cap with the Renegade print in there, and a very dark brown bottle. This is probably in a lot of the pubs in West Berkshire. I imagine this is kind of your staple bitter of the area. So I'm really interested then to see what it's like. So let's get it out. Whoa, look at that. It's like a smoking chimney. Into a glass and see what we get. I've had many conversations with breweries in the last year. Maybe I'll get to that in a moment. Let's concentrate on the beer. 2 finger, slightly off-white head, lovely copper coloured, clear looking best bitter. Good levels of carbonation. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, it's a best bitter. It's something that my dad would drink. It's something that I was kind of introduced to when I started drinking beer by my dad. The aroma is familiar. It's a very familiar aroma. Nuttiness, biscuitiness, breadiness, a little bit of stinging nettle in the hop there, a little bit of sweetness from the malt. It smells good. It smells really good. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Oh, wow. For a 3.4% ABV best bitter, that's got a bit of potency about it. Now, let me just give you a little bit of a background about my day so far. I've just reviewed a Weiss beer, and I reviewed a Weiss beer from Germany, and it was one of the best Weiss beers I've ever had in my life. And I said, this beer is incredible, and it's a 10 out of 10, and I loved it, fantastic. All those ripe banana flavours, biscuitiness, kind of like loveliness, kind of coming through the wheat flavours. It was just fantastic. So the slight worry was when I was getting into this review of the 3.4% ABV, because that beer was 5.3%, was that the Weiss beer may have masked all of the flavours of the bitter, but that is not the case. That is not the case whatsoever. This is nutty, it's biscuity, it's bready, it's hoppy, it's bitter on the back end. You can kind of tell it's 3.4% ABV. It does have some body. It does have some kind of malty body to it. But there is a sense of, I mean, let's make no bones about it. You definitely get a sense of that 3.4% ABV. I never want to use the word watery. I never ever want to use that word, watery, but it's kind of leaning towards being kind of ultimately incredibly refreshing. That's the word that I would like to use in the video, but it is leaning towards, yeah, being very, very refreshing, light. You know, it's the type of beer, I always kind of have a rule of thumb with beers like this. It's great, it's flavoursome, it's going to do a job. This is a wedding beer. Maybe, dare I say, a funeral beer. Where you go to a wedding, 10 o'clock in the morning, then you're carted off to a function somewhere. And bang, everyone's on a beer at 12 o'clock lunchtime. Same with a funeral. Same with a funeral. Go to a funeral, 10 o'clock in the morning, you're invited to a wake, some kind of party type of thing. I shouldn't use the word party with a funeral, but celebrating somebody's life maybe. And you turn up there at 12 o'clock lunchtime and you want to keep it respectable. You want to keep it respectable, so bish bash bosh, you're on Mr. Chubb's best bitter, or whatever best bitters are in the county or region you are around the world. This is kind of like drink all day, not going to get into much trouble, going to be very respectable, not have a loose tongue, not say something that you probably shouldn't have said, and, you know, everybody goes home at the end of the night. They've had a bit of a dance on the dance floor at a wedding, not at a funeral. And it just kind of like, you know, it just works. It just works. However, if I was kind of going out with the boys, my wife, evening type of thing, I might steer clear from this type of thing. I might kind of go, yeah, I want something a little bit stronger. And that's the balance. That's the balance. This beer has a purpose. It has a purpose. It's that kind of all-day drinking, very respectable type of beer. I was going to talk about something earlier on. I'll mention it very quickly. So I have been talking to brewers this year, 2023. And what I've been telling brewers, and what kind of brewers have been agreeing with me, is that if we can all kind of, going back to this kind of thing that's been going on for the last 5 or 6 years, the beginning of this video, if we can all get to 2024, I have a feeling that the garden might be a bit rosier in the near future. If we can all carry on muddling along for a little bit more. We've had we've had situation after situation. Hopefully 2024 can be the turning point, the year where things change. Being the eternal optimist as I am, things change, things kind of get a bit better. And, you know, you turn up at beer festivals and all the brewers got smiles on their faces again, like they did 5 or 6 years ago, before this whole thing started. These whole series of things started. So yeah, my bet, 2024, hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to be a better year. Mr. Chubb's best bitter, for me, it's a best bitter. It works as a best bitter. And a beer at 3.4% ABV, it's perfectly acceptable. It's a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.